The root cause of many problems we have with employees is not about how well they execute or perform their daily tasks. It's much more often about them taking responsibility for seeing through a desired outcome. Stay tuned and I'll explain how I think we often address this incorrectly.
Running a service business can be hard. It is not unusual for business owners in industries like contracting, home repair, auto repair, business-to-business services like janitorial, IT and accounting, and many others to feel overwhelmed by all the priorities facing them at any given time. Between addressing the needs of the customers, managing the employees, figuring out the financials, and getting processes in place, feeling like you're making significant progress on your business journey can be difficult. Welcome to Service Industry Success, hosted by Brian Harding. Each week, Brian will look at real-world strategies for building the business you are dreaming of, while also sharing tactics to get through some of the most frustrating parts of business ownership with a lot more ease. Let's get started.
So today I'm going to open up and talk about something that's completely unusual for me. I'm going to talk about Dr. Phil and Oprah. And the reason I think this is a good story is it's a great illustration that takes things away from employer, employee, business, and customers. It kind of takes it into a different context. It's perhaps more relatable, and then we'll kind of fold it into the topic for today. But Dr. Phil knew Oprah for a few years before he became Dr. Phil, before he became this nationwide guy with like the number 2 show on TV behind Oprah. And he got his start because she promoted him. And the way that happened was they had known each other through a case or whatever he was working on with her and her team of attorneys on something. That part doesn't really matter for what I'm talking about here. But he eventually wrote a book and he came on to her show to promote his book. And for anybody who's 40 or older knows that Oprah used to do a lot to promote books. So Dr. Phil comes on her show and he promotes her book. And then he finds out from her team of people what her favorite kind of flower was. And he afterwards sent her a bouquet, like a huge bouquet of these flowers with a thank you note telling her how much he appreciated her coming on. And what's interesting about this is by this time, she had been doing this for something. She'd been on the air for like 17 years. She'd been doing this book thing for probably, I don't know, half of that, I'm guessing. I don't know for sure. But he was not by any stretch the first person that she'd ever had on to promote a book. But he was the first person ever to send her flowers and a thank you note, which is wild, right? And so the lesson here is, okay, I don't think it's a coincidence that of all the people she had on promoting books and all the people who were experts in their field and all the people who could have went on to have a TV show, I don't think it's coincidence that Dr. Phil is the one that she picked to promote. He found out what she cared about and he did a thing to show her appreciation, which then likely helped motivate her to help him out. And I think about like now in the business world, like what's the inverse of that? So an example I have of you guys have heard me talk about before. If you listen to this podcast for any length of time, I worked for a company. We're in the late '90s. It was a big company, regional Western United States company that had several branches and whatever. And I worked at one of the branches, obviously. And they were rolling out their mission, their vision, their values, and all that kind of stuff. And this is where I got a real bad taste for that stuff because the way they rolled it out was just like it was like a clown show. It was just ludicrous the way that the silliness involved. They had a committee involved, and it was just all for show. It wasn't about actually having an established set of values that everyone was supposed to follow. It was kind of like a clown show where like it was just this big production about it, but nothing really changed. But one of the worst things they did when they rolled this out was, I worked in a union environment. I was a Teamster, and compensation was negotiated. People could certainly get paid and did more than what the required amount per the contract was. But by and large, people got what the contract said they would get. But what the company did was they offered a quote unquote commitment pay, is what they called it. If you came in and made your case to the manager, the operations manager for this warehouse environment where I worked in this industry, if you came in and made a case that you were committed to the vision and you were committed to the mission and the values and things like that, you would get 25 cents an hour over what you're already making. Now, as you can imagine, this fell completely flat. It was laughable. It was just one more way that they just kind of made a show out of this thing and demonstrated it didn't really mean anything. Now, listen, 25 cents an hour is $500 a year. Now, I wouldn't call that meaningful money, even back in 1996 or 1998, whenever this was. That's maybe the equivalent of like $1,500 a year now. I mean, I don't know if anybody turned down a $500 check, but it wasn't, it didn't instill what they wanted. Let's just put it that way. But they were trying to like buy their way into this thing of getting commitment to this mission, vision, and values, but they did it in kind of an absurd way, right? So the lesson here, I think, is we tend to conflate compensation and appreciation and motivation, right? Why didn't Dr. Phil send Oprah a gift card? I mean, obviously by then she was really wealthy, but he could have sent her $1,000 gift card to like the best steakhouse in Chicago, but he didn't. He sent something that probably cost a quarter of that. But the thing that he sent probably had more meaning because it was her favorite flower. He'd done the research and find out what her favorite flower was, and he took the time to find out what she would care about, and he did that thing rather than just writing a check back then to the steakhouse and getting her the gift card or whatever. Also, I was having coffee today with a guy who was like, not, I didn't bring this topic up, but just coincidentally, he was laughing about how his old company, they would buy pizza with the hopes that would garner great buy-in. Like pizza was going to be the way that they developed this unity and this would motivate the employees to like really care about things more than they ordinarily would care about. And we both kind of laughed about that, which, I mean, again, for many of us, we've worked at companies where the pizza party has this desired outcome of ginning up this commitment, but it falls flat, right? I mean, and many of us laugh about how silly this is. But when we voice frustration, that our employees aren't taking the responsibility we want them to, it shifts, the context shifts, right? We talk about like how, well, it's their job to do that stuff. And we rely on compensation to do the work of appreciation. As the employer, we tend to put too big of a burden, I think, on compensation to solve our responsibility problems. Just like it was laughable for $500 a year for commitment pay, 25 cents an hour, or the pizza party. It's when you step back and look at it, you're like, well, it's kind of silly to have the pizza party like check the box that this is supposed to happen. Now, if your employees really do care about the pizza party, like that might be different, right? But my point is, I think it's worth the investment to figure out what our employees actually care about and do that thing rather than doing a kind of a check the box kind of activity. So, and the reason I think this is like, in 1909, for example, there was an American philosopher named William James, and he wrote, "The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated." And I thought about that when I read it, a few weeks ago. And I thought, well, that is kind of how we did it. Meaning, yes, we had people out in the field who went out to people's homes and fixed the widget, and they were compensated for that. But when I really wanted something done where I didn't have direct oversight, so for in my case, for example, like communication was a big deal. But they were in a truck 40 miles away from me. If they didn't communicate well, I would never know unless it went wrong. So the way I got buy-in, the way we got buy-in and participation was not through compensation. It was through appreciation and motivation. And the difference is like how well they fixed the widget. That's what their compensation was based on. The technical skills they had determined their compensation level. But the compensation level did not determine the responsibility they were willing to take. Now, you could argue like a CEO of a company has more responsibility than the guy I was out in the warehouse. I totally agree with that. And so this is not a binary thing. I think we got to find the blend that works for our company and our employees and our situation. But I think we tend to assume that compensation will resolve responsibility problems when compensation, in my experience, doesn't necessarily resolve those problems. So the way I came to think about this was the more I wanted something to be done without my direct oversight, again, in my case, where they were making phone calls, but I would never know if they made the phone call or not unless I got a complaint that they didn't. I wasn't in the truck with them. I wasn't there to remind them. It's something they absolutely had to do and was counterintuitive. You know, anybody who's hired contractors or home service people or whatever, like, great communication is not second nature for these folks. It's something we have to motivate and instill, right? So my point is, this is not something that they was like likely to do on their own. This was something that was a chore. Like, we had many conversations where we drilled in like communication matters, communication matters, communication matters, and then we'd go out and not communicate well. But the way we solved this was not through compensation. We didn't bonus them every time they did it right. We didn't increase their pay in the hopes that it would happen. We figured out what was in it for them to do it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about here is no doubt compensation matters, just like fixing the widget matters to our customers. But the widget fixing is a component of the experience, not the whole of it. Same is true, I think, for employees. You can't pay a doctor entry level landscaping wages. I totally get that. But the compensation is not the whole of their working experience. Many studies have been done on why employees stay or leave jobs. And almost always, up until the COVID era, where things kind of with wages were going crazy for a while, up until that time, the number one reason people would stay or leave a job is the direct relationship they had with their supervisor, or the relationship they had with their direct supervisor. That relationship was the number one reason people would stay or go. Now, does that mean, again, if you're paying somebody $10 an hour less than what they could get at brand X, would they stay? No, of course not. So compensation is a factor, but it's not always the factor. And many times when we struggle with getting the levels of initiative, ownership, and accountability we want, I think people make the mistake of trying to solve those problems through compensation. And in our company, we solved it through motivation. How do we change the behaviors on things we could not see or know would happen unless they went wrong, like the phone calls, the communication? We tied it to how the employee who had to do that thing got what they wanted out of it. Like, we identified, in our case, they wanted to be the hero. Okay, well, you can't be the hero if you don't make good phone calls. You can't be the hero if you don't communicate well. So once we established they wanted to be the hero, we tied the responsibility we wanted, the initiative to take the ownership, the initiative to take to make the phone call, the ownership of doing it well, and being accountable if they didn't do it well. We solved that problem through tying what they wanted to that activity, not their pay. We didn't pay them more to get that. We got it from tying they want to be the hero, and you can't be the hero if you don't communicate well. And what do you know? A few months later, we weren't getting calls about not communicating anymore. The problem went away, but it didn't go away because we didn't pay them more, or because we paid them more. So one of the things I learned from that was the more urgently, completely, or willingly I need them to take responsibility, the more I need to focus on non-compensation factors. In other words, the more I need to be asking myself, what's in it for them to do this? Again, I understand that they have to get a paycheck, and I understand that that's not a trivial thing. However, the paycheck doesn't solve responsibility problems in all cases. And if I'm having a problem with something that requires initiative, ownership, and accountability, I need to be asking myself, am I balancing motivation and appreciation with compensation? Is it the right mix to get what I want? And if it's not, I'm not gonna be able to buy my way out of this. I'm not gonna be able to do the pizza party. I'm not gonna be able to do the 25 cent an hour, $500 raise to get commitment to this. That's not how it works in my experience anyway. So my point with this is, I know paychecks are a factor. I know, all that stuff matters, especially in the post-COVID era where, pay went crazy. I think things are kind of getting back to quote unquote normal, as far as like there's not people leaving 3 jobs in a year because they got $1 an hour raise every time they left somewhere. Like, that was a thing for a while. I don't really think that's a thing anymore. But the more I need improvement on things that are hard for me to see and monitor, and things that I need to then take responsibility for, not execute well, the more I have found it is easier to get that buy-in on the responsibility by tying it to motivation and appreciation rather than compensation. Again, I'm not dismissing compensation like it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. But just like the widget fixing matters, it's not the entire experience. It's a component of the experience. And if you don't fix the widget well, of course you'll get a 1-star review. No question. If you don't pay people well, of course you won't have employees. There's no question. But when we try to solve specifically responsibility problems, I think, based on my experience, we will have more success if we tie it to what they want. Just like Dr. Phil tied what Oprah wanted. She loved those flowers. It wasn't about the dollars. I think that that's a good illustration of what I'm talking about here. That's not really business related. We can all kind of get it in a different scenario than our employees. Like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. The flowers probably meant more to her than the $1,000 gift card would have, because he took the time to figure out what she cared about and did that thing. Therefore, what do you know? She turned around and like promoted his stuff and gave him a TV show. Like, I don't think that's a coincidence. And in my experience with our employees, the things we struggled with, we didn't solve through compensation. We solved it by tying it to something that they wanted, which is more about a motivation and appreciation. So, anyhow, I hope that helps. I know many people are dealing with situations where the real problem is not about how well we execute. The real problem is about employees taking responsibility. And this is exactly what I'm talking about here and how we solved it in our case. So, anyhow, hope that helps. If you find the information I share here helpful, please share this podcast with a friend or colleague you think could benefit from it. I know lots of business owners out there are struggling with employees who don't take the right amount of responsibility that the employer or the boss wishes. This is a fantastic episode to share. And of course, public sharing is appreciated also. So that's it for this week, and I'll talk to you all next week.